Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to our second day. Yesterday we started with the Wellness Travel Symposium, and today is part two. And were any of you here yesterday by chance? A few of you? Okay, great. So this is part two. We will only repeat a few things on the introductory slides in terms of the data, but otherwise everything is new. And I'm delighted to be here. My name is Susie Ellis, and I'm chairman and CEO of the Global Wellness Institute. And the Institute, I live in Miami, and the Institute is a nonprofit. We do a lot of research in the wellness sector. I'll tell you a little bit about that. And we also put on the Global Wellness Summit. This is our 12th year. We'll be in Italy next year. This last year we were in Palm Springs just about a month ago. So we gather all of the top people in wellness around the world. So I think we have some fresh things to share with you because our job is to keep up on what's going on in the wellness sector. So today the topic is differentiation in wellness travel can be a competitive advantage. And I have three esteemed colleagues who will be coming up later to give a bit of their viewpoint. One is Jean-Claude Baumgarten, who was head of the WTTC for 12 years. And I have an interesting story to share with you about when I first met him. And he was one of the first people who understood wellness tourism, and I didn't have to explain it to him. And that was quite a few years ago, and I will never forget that. And he's really very thoughtful about tourism in general and wellness in particular now with wellness travel. I also will be introducing you to Armando Manella and Elisa Peridot, and they are from Eschia. He in particular is very familiar with wellness travel in Italy, thermal springs in particular, and so we wanted to hear from someone who has the viewpoint of a country that is looking at wellness travel. And then finally, we're going to hear from Dr. Elena Michipolo, and she's an assistant professor in business management at the University of Derby, and she has some very interesting, maybe even controversial things to say about segmentation. So I think that you'll get quite a bit out of this. So let's get started, and I'm going to introduce you to the topic of differentiation in wellness travel. We each are going to speak for about 15 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, and then we will have question and answers. So if you have any questions, you can use Slido, which is slido.com, and you put in the hashtag WTMLDN, and you can ask questions. And we will see the questions here on the monitor, so you can put the questions in any time, and I'll glance over there now and then. We might take a few questions during the session, and for sure at the end, when I have everyone come up here, we'll address questions for sure. We also are going to have some microphones, so if you have a question, want to raise your hand, at that point, we'll be able to do that as well. So, without further ado then, let me introduce you a little bit to the fact that we have research, and all of our research is available for free, and it's on the website. You can see here globalwellnessinstitute.org. So if you're interested in any wellness travel numbers, they will be there. And I will let you know that this upcoming year, 2018, we will be refreshing all of our data and doing something new that we haven't done, which is do our data by country. So that is going to be, it's never been done before. We have regional figures in terms of, country, in terms of what areas are growing, Asia, Europe, and so on. But we will dive deeper this next year. So I think that'll be exciting. Let's just go back very quickly. If you see this little bubble graph here, these are the sectors of the global wellness economy. So you can see where wellness travel fits in. That's the one in the center there. And those bubbles, we call them, or circles, are the size of the sector. So whereas the entire global wellness economy is about a $3.7 trillion arena, wellness travel is about $500 billion. So it's quite significant. But you can see the other sectors that are included in the wellness economy are beauty and anti-aging, which is a very large sector, fitness and mind-body, thermal and mineral springs, the spa industry, complementary and alternative medicine, healthy eating, nutrition, wellness, lifestyle, real estate, and the one I couldn't read down here, preventative and personalized medicine. So you can see that these kind of are fluid. They're not totally outside of wellness travel, because sometimes people will be traveling someplace and availing themselves of a fitness experience or a nutrition experience or mind-body, spas, thermal mineral springs, and so on. So, quick definition of wellness travel. Wellness tourism is travel associated with the pursuit of maintaining or enhancing one's personal well-being. And if you have been noticing lately, probably wherever you live, there's more and more talk about wellness. So this is definitely something the consumer is interested in, and we're seeing more and more interest. So it's growing. And one way to look at it when it comes to the travel arena is to look at a primary purpose wellness traveler and a secondary. That's an important distinction now. The primary purpose wellness traveler is someone who is traveling primarily, the reason they're going is for a wellness experience. So for example, if someone is going to Shiva Som in Thailand, to Canyon Ranch in the US, to Lanzerhof in Europe, to the Cour Hotel in Brazil, that person is probably interested totally in their health and wellness for that experience. And that, of course, is a growing number. The other sector is the secondary purpose wellness traveler. And that is a hugely growing number because that's someone that is traveling in general for other reasons. It could be business, it could be a honeymoon, it could be vacation for family, and they incorporate something wellness-oriented into their trip. So which of these sectors do you think would be the largest, percentage-wise? The primary is the smaller, and the secondary is the larger. It's about 89% secondary and 11% primary. So you can see that the full vacation or the full trip for wellness is smaller, but yet it is significant because this is a high-yield traveler. And that's the point here, is that someone that is incorporating wellness into their trip is a high-yield tourist. They spend more money. On the left side there is 61% higher. That's for the international wellness traveler. And for a domestic wellness traveler, it's hugely higher, 164%. And I do find a lot of times people forget that there's a huge domestic market when it comes to wellness travel. Germany is a perfect example. Huge, huge domestic travel for wellness. Okay, so today we're going to talk about differentiation. So instead of a general conversation, we're talking a little bit about the future, and especially two areas that we are finding interesting and we think that it's important to think about. One is the millennials, and we're learning what their interest is in this wellness travel space, and it's a little bit different than what we've experienced with the baby boomers. And then we also want to talk about the Chinese wellness travel explosion and how we think this will, it's starting to, but even more so in the future, affect wellness travel. And then there's a few other segments that we'll talk about just briefly. But we'll start with the millennials. So I've been to some of the other sessions here, and millennials are coming up over and over, which is really interesting to see what other people are saying. And I'm hearing, some of the same kinds of things. First of all, in our arena with wellness travel, the millennials are spending a lot. They are spending more, actually, than the Gen Xers or the boomers. And, the millennials, they are already not so into possessions. They're more into experiences. So we are seeing in this particular survey that was done by Lex Consulting, 61% of millennials expressed interest in spending money on luxury and wellness travel, 48% of Gen Xers and 35% of boomers. I would say right now the industry is fueled largely by boomers. So the robustness of it is, and the growth of it has been a lot with boomers, but you can see with the millennials coming up, it's going to get even more exciting. So at the recent Global Wellness Summit that took place in Palm Beach, we had Alexa Brew and Melise Galula. They are the ones that head up a website called Well and Good. I don't know if you've heard of it, but Well and Good is a website that has huge traffic, and they started maybe 8 years ago by being a website that explained the cutting edge of what's going on in the wellness space. They had all the hot things that are happening, whether it's, yoga or spinning or, bar classes, cycling, juicing, all of those kinds of things. And over the years, they have really become known for being on the cutting edge. And they have a huge database. And Alexia and Melise spoke at our summit, which was last month. And I'm going to share a few things that they shared with us because I thought it was quite interesting. So one of the surveys that they did, they asked, how many times per year do you go on vacation? And these are the millennials, and you can see that 55% go 2 to 3 times a year, and 17% go 4 to 5 times. Now, I will say this is a U.S. study, and as you may know, the U.S. doesn't have a tendency to go on vacation all that much or stay that long compared to a lot of other people in the world. So it was significant to see that so many of the millennials are going to be planning these vacation trips for the following year. And in particular, they were asked, are you planning to go on a wellness retreat in the next 12 months? And here you have 66% saying yes. So that's a huge amount of people that are thinking about doing something with wellness. And we're going to talk about retreats in particular in a little bit. Another thing they asked the survey recipients, and I think they sent this out to their 800,000 subscribers, so it was quite a large group, but a lot of them are millennials, is that here are the things that they're looking for in a wellness retreat. 99% is the quality of food. And since we do research, we've asked over the years many research questions, and I can't tell you how important the food is. I think in almost all travel decisions, but especially with wellness travel, people are concerned. Are they going to be starving? Are they going to be limited in what they get to eat? So it's very important for people to know what is on offer. And nowadays, there's usually fantastic gastronomy, very healthy but imaginative kinds of things that are included in a lot of wellness trips. The other thing is nature. That is very big for millennials. They want to be out in nature. I think it's big for a lot of people, but especially for millennials, and especially those that are working in urban environments. And then fitness is also a priority, something innovative, spa services. And notice fitness guru. This is something that I don't think was even something that would come up even just a few years ago if this survey has been done. But the millennials are looking for places to go, whether it's a hotel, resort, or a destination spa, retreat, yoga experience, where there are experts. Because, and here's the key thing to know about the millennials and wellness, they are not wellness newbies. They are already engaged in wellness pursuits wherever they are, wherever they live. They're probably going to classes, they're probably involved with fitness activities in some way, something social in fitness. They're eating healthfully, perhaps, juicing, all kinds of things that they are involved with, maybe mindfulness and so on. So when they go away and travel, they are not wanting to have just a mediocre experience. They're looking for expertise. And in fact, they will even follow someone that's a guru in whether it's fitness or mindfulness or something related. This is an example of some of the top stars, these are most in the United States, that have huge followings online. And these are the people that are followed if they were to go to, say, a spa, let's say Rancho La Puerta in Mexico. If one of these people is starring there for the week, that will draw the millennials in. because they will see that as a huge opportunity. And they will know these people because they've been following them online. So let's talk a little bit about Chinese tourism. And I think we're all aware that there's a huge, huge wave of Chinese travelers that is unprecedented, and apparently all the numbers, and I don't know about you, but I get lost in the numbers, hundreds and millions. I just know it's large. Lots of people in China are starting to travel, and they do enjoy wellness and spa experiences. The point, obviously, is that there's a lot of crowding, pollution, stressful cities, so the appetite for wellness tourism, nature, outdoor adventure, is huge. And the initial beneficiaries, I would say already now, is Japan, Taiwan, Thailand, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Hong Kong, and it's growing. More and more Chinese travelers are coming there, and we're starting to see it in other parts of the world as well. So the sheer force of the Chinese outbound tourism will increasingly impact all wellness tourism markets. And there's some other elements of characteristics with the Chinese in that they enjoy spa and thermal mineral springs, and the middle class in particular likes to go and have a very full schedule, but they do appreciate a spa or thermal experience in there. And I've spoken to some of my colleagues who are at places where they have a lot of people from China who use their spa facilities, and some of the unique aspects are that they do not like to get naked. They do enjoy novelty treatments, and we're just seeing more and more of them experiencing what's on offer from spas. So here's some of these numbers, the mass effect of Chinese outbound tourism. Even the marginal increase means big growth numbers. I think it's interesting that 18% growth versus the global average of 3.9%. That is a number that speaks to me. And here is some of the recent growth in wellness tourism. And you can see that China is at the top. So the growth rate is huge, 26.6%. And of the 5 top wellness tourism countries that are interested in wellness tourism in terms of numbers, China's number 1 now. United States, Germany, India, France, Australia, these are the top 10. So annual growth rate of 27% versus the global average of 6.8%. That's the wellness tourism part. The other number I gave you was for tourism in general. So you can see that wellness tourism is very interesting to them. A few other differentiating categories that I will just mention that we're seeing in our research is fertility. Actually, in Europe, we're seeing quite a bit of interest in this niche. It's a differentiator. I think there's something like 1,000 places in Europe where you can go and address the issue of fertility. And there's a lot of medical evidence about the importance of relaxation and such with increasing fertility opportunities. So fertility is something we're seeing more and more of. Extreme adventure is something that's on our radar. And again, this is sort of millennial driven. Biohacking, I don't know if anybody's heard that term, maybe you have, but you'll probably hear it more and more. At our summit last month, we had Wim Hof there. I don't know if you know him. He is sort of famous as the Iceman, someone who swims in, ice cold water under the ice and climbs mountains in shorts and so on. And he actually did come to our summit in shorts and t-shirt. And that's not so unusual because we were in Palm Beach. But he wore the same outfit to the gala. That was a little different. So anyway, but biohacking is the idea of really challenging your body, challenging it in such a way that it would actually improve your immune system, for example, through cold. We see that in spas with cryotherapy and so on. So biohacking is something you'll see more of. And then the other topic we addressed quite a bit at the summit is DNA and personal biomarker testing. Many of you have probably already done this. Who's done a DNA personal test? Some of you? Okay, that's not quite as many as we had, but you probably are seeing, these advertisements on TV and so on. What's happening is this is happening more and more, and when someone has their personal biomarkers information, there are now programs that will give you a lot of specifics. One in particular is, for example, what is the best food, what is the best diet for you to eat, and isn't that a valuable thing to know? If you're wanting to lose weight, what would be a good way to do that? How would it be easier than if you're eating this kind of diet or that kind of diet? So just getting that information can be extremely helpful. And of course, with the medical advancements, the information is going to just become more and more valuable. In preparation for our summit, I took all kinds of tests. I did this DNA test and this ancestral test and this one and that one, and I even went to La Jolla to do the whole genome. And what I found is that a lot of people are doing it, the prices are coming down, but the real hurdle is that having someone explain to you or even understanding what they give you as reports, in one place it was a 200-page report, is not all that easy. So it's going to take some time, but I think that wellness, travel destinations, and places are going to have a unique opportunity to help with that understanding. It's not going to need doctors necessarily, and it's not a medical something that you have to do at the site, but you can use the results of it. So I think we'll see some differentiation there. So that's just a little bit of an overview. And so I thank you for listening to that. And I am now going to introduce you to someone who's a very special friend, Jean-Claude Baumgarten. And as I mentioned, he was with the WTTC for a long time. And I'll just tell you quickly the story. We met in Abu Dhabi, and it was in 2013. Yes, let's welcome Jean-Claude to the stage. Thank you, and why don't you have a seat here?
Good.
And I'll tell the story from my view, and then you can tell the story from your point of view.
Okay, go ahead.
So,
ladies first.
Ladies first, thank you. So we were in Abu Dhabi, and it was 2013, and you were there as, a big shot because it was the WTTC, and it was my first WTTC. And so someone introduced us. Philippe introduced us. And I was used to, at that point, talking with people about wellness travel, and they really didn't understand it. And I always ended up having to explain, well, I'm in the wellness arena, and I'm very involved with research in wellness travel, and that is different than medical travel. And then I would go into my spiel about what the difference was. So when you and I met, I started with that, and you interrupted me, and you ended up telling me what wellness travel was, and I was so impressed.
Well, that's typical me, but I have no merit to that. My father was a sportsman, and he was in those health food supplement already at that time. The guru of that was Gaylord Hauser. You remember?
Gaylord Hauser.
Yeah, Gaylord Hauser.
Yes.
He made us eat things which was blah, And but so I was into that. The other thing is that having been in travel and tourism for so many years, I saw people changing in their travel habits. And what triggered the whole thing when I spent 8 years in Japan, and I saw those herds of Japanese going into the spas, the spring water,
The onsens?
And the onsen, in other words. And immediately I realized that they are not only going to the onsen to spend days in the water like that, but also they traveled, they sightsee. And so for me, it was natural.
Well, I was delighted that someone of your stature understood, because when we started out doing the research, people understood medical tourism because that was going somewhere for a medical procedure, oftentimes because it was less expensive or not available in the home country, and that was very understandable. But the wellness part was a little bit more confusing. And then we did a summit in India, and that was a good place to explain the difference, because India has both medical travel and wellness, because you can go there for yoga, meditation, Ayurveda, and you can also have medical procedures. So the government there was very ahead of time and just made a distinction. And that has been a model now that we see a lot.
That's a very good point, you know. Coming back to when I was at WTTC, my main purpose was to convince governments and medias about the importance of travel and tourism. So, thank God it happens now that everybody realizes that travel and tourism is important. It's even becoming a little bit too important, but we talk about that later.
Yes, I have, because there was just a session with the ministers about over-tourism, but we'll talk about that later.
Come back to what you said. It's very simple. More and more people want to travel and want to get something else out of the travel. To summarize, I have seen Japanese tourists. I used to be with Air France for many years. We used to carry groups of 120 with a flag, and now it's the IT, they are individual travelers. And each of them has a different purpose. So maybe not wellness, but maybe have a feeling of well-being when they come back. And I think we should discuss that.
Let's do that, because we've had this discussion a few times, because you might have heard there's clearly the term wellness is being used, but also the term well-being is being used. And in France, I think especially, you have a word, what is it? Bien-être.
Bien-être.
Bien-être, which is well-being. And it's, so we are hearing the term well-being. And what is the difference to you? Or is there a difference?
Well, for me, wellness is related to a gym where people are on those machines, working hard.
More like a physical.
Fitness.
Yeah.
Wellness equal fitness. Mm-hmm. Well-being is something you feel good about. And look what's happening, and the millennials are doing that. You have a society which you are not always happy with. You are stressed at your job, you're stressed at home, you're stressed in your car. I spent an hour and a half to come here by taxi this morning. I should have gone to a well-being session, but that's it. You know, we are looking for activities. Is it domestically? Is it intellectually? Is it travel? Which make us feel well. And the wellness fits perfectly in. So the difference between Susie and myself, she thinks wellness is here and well-being is here. I think they're different. But, you know, that helps us to have a nice discussion. And
well, actually, over the years, I've sort of come around, because what's happening is that well-being is becoming quite of a large umbrella under which, you know, wellness fits very well. And even though in the wellness space we don't think of ourselves as just involved with physical, although I think, you know, fitness and nutrition and those things are conjured up, we also have mental wellness and so on. But I do think well-being is a bit broader, and especially now that there are these happiness reports, because the happiness science has sort of adopted the word well-being. So you have Gallup, which has a well-being index, and you have the UN that comes out with a World Happiness Report, and they talk a lot about happiness and well-being. So what I've been finding is that well-being has maybe a little bit more of a happiness aspect to it, and wellness is a little bit more in the physical health.
Most probably.
Yeah.
But what we should say is that we have something else which is called Facebook, which is called the web, where people communicate.
Yes.
And when they go on a trip, you have all those messages, you know. And nowadays, the marketing section of big companies are watching that very carefully, how to conceive new products,
Yes.
which are following the trends which they see on Facebook or on Twitter or whatever. So we have to be, it's becoming much more wider. It's
Right.
becoming much more bigger. Actually, when I was in charge of Air France, it was easy to make a marketing plan because we had categories. Now airlines are just a segment to carry people somewhere where they will find something they have been looking for. Is it intellectual? Is it physical? Is it just nature? And all that goes around in feeling well. You know, I don't even say well-being, feeling well.
Very well.
And the latest evolution here is meditation.
Is what?
Meditation.
Meditation, okay.
It's amazing how meditation. I have a friend who is a big surgeon. I'm from Strasbourg, and he is one of the top surgeons in Strasbourg. And he gives meditating lessons to his patients. And he says that it helps them to recover much faster than if you would give them a pill because of pain.
Which brings us to a topic that we have found that is becoming the number one thing consumers are asking for because they are concerned about their mental wellness. It's not so much about the physical, wanting to lose weight or so on. It is about mental. And we see, our research shows that it's stress related. And clearly, the more technology we have, and we're all on our iPhones, and a lot of people are addicted to it, and there's an addictive part of that. And so the stress levels have continued to go up and up and up. And as the stress levels go up, our wellness sector is, I guess, the beneficiary in terms of
Sure.
people needing to have help with that. And now with the news constantly, with all the negative news, the importance of wellness, and so the meditation, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. And you know, by the way, Hyatt just purchased a big company called Miraval. And that's a big thing in our world, that a big company like Hyatt would purchase a spa company. And Miraval has always been known for mindfulness. That was their unique selling point. And now they are putting Miravals in a lot of their hotels. And so I think that addresses some of the fact that they realize there's expertise there. By the way, they also bought Exhale, which is a place that is specializing in hardcore core fusion type of classes that are more millennial oriented. So I think that there's going to be more of an infusion in different aspects, but the mental part is very important.
I agree. Just changing subject a little
Yes.
bit, if you allow me. We have to realize, here we are in travel and tourism. We have to realize that the figures Susie gave about the travelers, about the increase of traveling, about the increase of the Chinese travelers, we will see that grow and grow as soon as the average capita income reaches a certain level, people travel. And I would say after that, people travel for a purpose. And that's what we are talking about. So we are all going to see all over the world a fantastic boom of traveling. We haven't seen yet what's going to happen. And we have now to think, and unfortunately, Minister of Tourism have no power in their government. You know, they are considered as salesmen for the country. But we will have to conceive a travel and tourism policy where we can, A, fit the numbers of travelers, spread the numbers of travelers all over the year, where wellness and well-being plays a role.
Huge.
So we are at the beginning of something which is completely unique, where people are going to travel more and more. You are talking about the Chinese. I don't know, 200 million.
Oh, yes, 200 million, but the numbers are just always.
And I remember I met
mind-boggling.
the Deputy Prime Minister of China with the the Director General of the National Chinese Tourism Administration. And I was saying, I don't know how we can accommodate that. And with a little smile, he told me, well, my dear Mr. Baumgarten, we have the Golden Week coming now. We are going to have 2 billion trips over the next 2 weeks, only domestically. I don't think we are going to have that internationally, but we have to get ready to have a new holistic approach about how we are going to manage, how we are going to fulfill the needs, because what you are talking about, Susie, is that the needs are from sport,
right,
nature, to intellectual, to spirituality. We have to have an answer to all of that.
Well, I remember when we met, the discussion in tourism was getting more tourists. It was, having a campaign in a country to bring more tourists, And I thought it was quite interesting that here at the WTM, the minister's discussion was about over-tourism. And I know you're familiar with the fact that that's something wellness can help with quite a bit. And they were discussing, because I went to that session, seasonality is a way to handle over tourism, because if you have all of your visitors coming in one season, and that used to happen in Europe with skiing and so on.
Exactly.
If you can spread it out. So what have you seen?
But you have to have a reason to get the people to travel in winter to the Alps. I'm sorry, in winter easy. In summer to the Alps.
Right.
And the Alps in Switzerland, in France, and in Italy have come out, and in Germany have come out with a fantastic approach to that. Nature.
Yes.
Hiking.
Yes.
Also there are now more and more places where you meet a guru, where you meditate, where you yoga. So in other words, that works. But the key question is, how do you get people traveling off-season?
And that's where wellness has had a major effect in a lot of countries. We did our summit in Austria a couple years ago, and they are a good example where the winter season used to be the high season. Now it is summer. Because one of the things they also saw, sometimes when you have less snow and you can't rely on the snow, what are the people going to do? So then they build wellness facilities, spas, and so on. And now you're offering something that people can do, whether you have ski, snow or not. And then, of course, you can use all those facilities in the off-season. You can have yoga retreats and hiking and all of that. So, if there's just one thing that I would say here is that there's going to be more travel and there's going to be more people interested in wellness. So almost anywhere a person is in this arena, they should be thinking about how to capture that and how to sort of make that
And it's one of the answers, you know. The overcrowding is another problem with over-tourism. Maybe you don't know, but a couple of years ago there was an election on the Costa Brava and the Costa del Sol, and two small cities elected a mayor, a lady.
Yes.
And that they decided to close hotels. And it was interesting, one of them closed hotels, but also spread the arrivals all over the year. And they had to reopen a hotel because in winter they had developed a special tourism which is around wellness, which is around culture, so in other words, we have to become, and I think that could be a conclusion, we have to be very creative in the future about how we conceive travel and tourism products. And the search for wellness or well-being will play a key factor in putting a product together to attract tourism.
I think we will end it there. You have said it marvelously. Thank you, Jean-Claude. Let's give him a hand.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
May I go now?
You may go, but you're coming back. You will be back for the Q&A at the end.
I knew it. Thank you.
Thank you. So, now I'd like to introduce you to Armando Minella. He is chairman of the Hotel Association of Ischia, and also with him is Aleska Parado. And I'm delighted to have them come up. They have a PowerPoint, and then they're going to introduce us a little bit from a country point of view, what's happening in Italy when it comes to wellness.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. I would like to bring the greeting of Mr. President of Mrs. President of Kristalina Evelyn of Italian Tourist Board, special partner of WTM, and President of Campania region. You're welcome.
Vado?
Sì, vai tu.
Okay. So let's start with our slogan of the island of Ischia in Italy, which is the good way to introduce our concept of wellness. We used to say that we have the spa, which have as the sky as a ceiling and gardens as a walls. So this is for us a very important point, because this is completely different from the spa of the other part of the world. For us, the concept of wellness is not just wellness treatment, but it's about the well-being, as our colleague said before. And of course, in Italy, we have different kind of wellness concept because we have the thermal water, and we will encourage people to try all of them because all the type of the thermal waters are different from one part of the Italy to another. So this is the richness of our country, for sure. But there's also another concept, because let's see, I will ask you if you will prefer one or another type of treatment, wellness treatment. Let's imagine to do a hot stone treatment, hot stone massage in an amazing spa or in a part of the world, and then let's imagine to do the same in this image. What you would prefer? like in a normal spa or with this amazing landscape. For us, the point is completely different because about the well-being is linked the wellness, because it's not just a treatment, but it's completely be immersed in the lifestyle of Italy, in our beautiful landscape, and also other very important point like food, like also the nature, and also all our heritage. We have here some pictures because wellness for us it's possible to have it all over in Italy. Here is Florence. We have a very important spa and wellness center also in the center in an important city like Florence, Milan, Naples, Venice. So here we are, of course, also on the behalf of our president of Campania region, and we will show you also this image. Wellness is for us, of course, about thermal water, and let's just imagine that we have more than 100 different kind of sources and springs in Campania region.
In Italian
And in Italian, of course. This is a landscape of Ischia, our island, and as I told you before, of course, the wellness and the well-being is a concept very wide, and it is also in center in the nature and landscape, because it's completely different to do a wellness treatment and then go out for a walking completely full in the nature. As I told you, Florence has Venice has amazing spa and wellness center too. So for us, it's also very important to advertise, to explain that, as Susie told before, you can also come to do wellness in Italy as a second purpose. So come to visit our amazing city and then also try to experience our wellness lifestyle. Of course, we will also show you Napoli as a city, and it is for us a bit like the super city for the food, because we have a very important plates. Of course, pizza. All of you, I think, you eat pizza, and our food experience. And of course, it's possible to link this kind of concept to wellness and well-being. Capri is another island and very well known all over the world, very famous. And of course, with its landscape, amazing views, it's completely full immersion in this concept of the well-being and wellness traveling and wellness travel experience.
Se possiamo dire che la ricerca di wellness di prima raccoglie tutti quei dati.
As Susie presented before, all the dates that she presented before perfectly shows all this kind of concept inside the picture that we have shown. And as I told you before, also the food is very important in this concept of wellness and well-being, because especially in this period that we are experiencing, the good food and the health food, it's on the base of the well-being. So it's important to eat very well and, of course, taste amazing plates, but it's important to do it healthy, in a healthy way. And another very important point of our heritage in Italy, of course, is the Pompeii as a site and other UNESCO sites. all over Italy, as a Pompeii is an example of sure. And returning to what I said before, it's important to understand that it's possible to come to visit Italy and link two kinds of different purpose. So visit an island, a destination, if you are interested in culture and what is our heritage, and also do spa and wellness treatment. And we would like also to underline that there is a wine therapy. Of course, we have some of the most important wines in the world, and especially coming from Campania region. And it's important that also be having an immersion in this kind of landscape. It could be very helpful for a health treatment and for the well-being. And we will close the presentation with this amazing sunset, because, as you know, it's something that what you can experience with your eyes. It's the first point to have an amazing well-being sensation.
Queste sono le località termali d'Italia.
And now we'll come up all the thermal and wellness location and destination of Italy. For sure, you know the water of Fuji, which is very healthy and famous.
No. Thank you for attention.
And we will invite you to come to visit our amazing destination.
Thank you both. And just stay here for just a second. I'm just wondering, have you been to some of these places? Which ones have you been to?
Almost all of them.
Almost all of them. Wow.
As Italians, we would like also to experience our country, first of all, and then go to discover the rest of the world.
And yourself also, have you been to many, I'm sure, of the thermal? Yeah.
But from Italy is particularly from the wellness, because the linked to wellness, and your presentation before this heritage food culture is very good.
I agree with you that when you think of Italy, you don't just think of one aspect. You think of the lifestyle, and that is so appealing. I know that so many people come to Italy, and it's part of your lifestyle to enjoy life, and that is food and mineral water and the lifestyle in general.
Not just a travel, but a whole experience. So.
Exactly. So I'm not surprised that you're marketing Italy with the wellness aspect being part of it, and we're going to be there. Our next summit is going to be in Italy, by the way, and we have been invited by Technogym. I'm sure know Technogym. I'm not sure everyone else does, but they are a large equipment company that makes very high-end, stylish exercise equipment. And what's interesting is they have created a wellness valley. I don't know if you're aware of it, but that's another trend we're seeing. Places where people are creating an entire area that's good for the local people as well as visitors, that is wellness-oriented. So we're all going to be there. There'll be about 600 of us coming.
So we will wait for you.
October. And we're going to encourage people to visit some of the thermal springs before and after. So thank you very much.
It will be a pleasure.
Let's give them a hand. We'll see you in a bit. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Elena Mishipoulou. She is a senior lecturer in business management at the University of Derby. And I'm very excited to have her share her PowerPoint with you because I've taken a look at it. It's Understanding Wellness Markets and Is It the Death of Segmentation? So I think this will be very interesting. Please welcome Elena.
Do we have video?
Oh yeah, that's right, I think. Yeah, forward and back. Okay.
Hi, thank you for coming. Today I will try and make it in 15 minutes, so please brace yourselves. I'm going to be speaking very fast. And apologies for the accent, but that's that. So I want to talk about my journey in trying to understand wellness markets. So first of all, I would like to agree with Susie and Jean-Claude before about the wellness and well-being. And a very dear friend of mine in Hungary reminded me and said, can you please talk about the difference between wellness and well-being and the different understandings that exist because of different locations. But I think that was already done, so good. So what did I do? I'm an academic, so I went back to the literature. How do we do segmentation? And we may use behavioral, psychographic, or demographic ways of segmenting our market. But I thought, okay, that's still very traditional marketing segmentation theory. Maybe there's something else. So then I went to the GWI, evidence and research, and I found this graph. And again, wellness tourism is bang on the middle. I said, okay, that's an important bit. And then I thought, okay, type of tourism. Now, okay, Sheldon in the 80s said that tourism has more than 30 industries that it relates to, but let's go with a colorful graph of GWI. But is it about the type of tourism, or is it really about the type of tourist? And again, as Susie explained very well earlier on, we have two different ways of looking at them. The primary markets, those that go purposefully for consuming wellness products, and all other tourists that go for holidays and maybe incidentally engage with a little bit of wellness. And I thought, okay, there is a dichotomy, two markets. Again, I was not very convinced. Maybe let's go through the tourism literature. Now, the tourism people have been doing tourism segmentation for more than 30 years. They may know something. So I looked at different authors, and again, there are quite a few there, and there are a lot more that are not on the slide. The McKercher and Ducros 2013 were quite promising because they also looked at experiences, shallow and deep experiences of cultural tourists. And I thought, that has some promise there. Although, to be honest, in my mind, it was Gray that really captured me because this has this wanderlust and sunlust. And I thought, oh, these are awesome hashtags. But again, they were developed in the 70s, so probably not what they had in mind. Never mind. So there is a difference between the old tourist and the new tourist and wellness tourist at that. So what are the differences? There seems to be a way of looking at the old consumers that they were more passive, they were more brand aware, and they were receiving the values of the brand quite passively. While the new consumers are switching. They are more switched on, they are more connected, they are more proactive, and they are interacting with their surroundings, trying to collect stories and looking at authentic versions of consumption. Because what they really are after is experiences. Now, at this point, we have to understand how our understanding evolved in terms of our products and tourism. Because we were, as a society, we were focused on production and manufacturing. Then we focused quite a lot on the products themselves. Then we moved on to services and services design. And today we talk about experiences. How can we design experiences, and experiences that are not designed and delivered by us, how we engage our customers to co-create the experiences so that we can deliver value to all our stakeholders. And all this co-creation and co-destruction, as some may say, are terms that are floating around. We have our current market to look after. And our current market, and don't kid ourselves, this is the bulk and our bread and butter of what we do. They have particular needs and wants and expectations. But while this may be our market, we also have to look at the market that is to come, our future customers, and what their needs and what their understandings and expectations are for what we do. So I was thinking, what is the one factor? What's the common denominator? Why have behaviors in terms of travel and wellness travel at that have changed from the previous consumer to this consumer? Now, I don't want to be minimalistic and say there is only one thing. There are a number of factors, but there is one main factor that we need to look at because that has had the major impact, and that is technology. What type of technology we're using? How are we using technology? To what extent are we engaged with technology? Do we love technology? Do we hate technology? And all these issues of self-efficacy, and are we averse, or do we love it? Or how do we engage with technology or not? So technology is something that is here to stay. It's undeniable, but it also gives us beautiful opportunities to engage with our audiences. And of course, we have a lot of different channels and a lot of different media, social or otherwise, to engage and have meaningful conversation with our customers so we can understand their needs and actually co-create the experience with them and not talk to them. And then many of you may say, can I use all of them? I don't have the time, the resources, the money, the expertise, or even the stamina to engage talking to everyone in all the different channels. So then I thought, okay, how do I answer that? What would my students do? And some of them are in the audience. I'll Google it, and that's what I did. So, you know, one of the first links that comes up is this one. And of course, you see a lot of different social media, and you would expect to find the usual suspects. But there is one thing that I find interesting. Facebook is still there. The past few years, we have been talking about how millennials and younger generations are switching to more to different channels that provide visual stimuli, so videos or images. So we've seen the transition to places like Instagram, Snapchat, and what have you. But Facebook is still there. So for those of you who are about to ditch it, please don't, because it's still important. So what it shows there is that people talk to each other quite a lot. And we have all these people talking to each other. So we're looking at content that is generated by our users. What do we do with that content? Then we have content that is created by us, branded content that we pay for our marketeers to present. And then we have the influencers in between, which is a little bit of a gray area. So all these people are talking to each other. And I thought this Saturday, let's see how Twitter works and what are some of the big accounts. So I found that these kind of accounts have not just a lot of followers, not just hundreds, but millions, in the hundreds of millions. Okay, now, if we put that in perspective, then the population of all these countries, if you add them together, they are half of the fan base of, what's your name again? Taylor Swift. So all these countries is half of her following. If we add another 8, and we have 15 countries, and that's almost half Europe here, it's a total of, let's say, 111 million, which is still less than the number of followers Cristiano Ronaldo has on Instagram, even less so Ariana Grande, and even less so Selena Gomez. Now, if I took all these 15 countries, and I could even throw in, I don't know, Liechtenstein, the Vatican, Andorra, I would still have a few million left to get these 130 million followers. So, okay, if you get these people to talk about your products and services, fantastic, and the impact will definitely be good and big. But it's not just about getting those people. You may want other influencers within your areas to say something about that. So you can get Susie, who's doing very well on Twitter, by the way, to say something about your products. There's an influencer for you. So if we look at this context, the third, not the first, not the second, the third most important hashtag last year was on Pokemon Go. And that is a virtual, an augmented reality game. And that was downloaded 500 million times. The number is mind-blowing. Continuing on that, the FIFA World Cup, it had more than 600,000 tweets per minute. Now, if we think about that, it's the whole population of Belfast or Glasgow tweeting at the same time. Wow. And then for those of you that say, oh, okay, success cannot come in a day, actually, no, it doesn't take 24 hours. It takes 4 hours and 3 minutes. Because Kathleen Jenner's account went from 0 to 1 million within 4 hours. And okay, not everyone can do it. That was a very compelling story, and people were buying that, and that was great. But I don't know, some of you may remember this fairy tale a couple of years back. So it had 3 million tweets during the 3-hour ceremony. And what was important was that the speed of Twitter conversations peaked at 200 tweets per second. Therefore, in this time, we have just had 1,000 tweets. 1,000 people were communicating about a particular event. Are you engaging in those conversations? And, okay, that might seem big and important, but of course it was bumped by the news of a baby bump with 8,000. So, okay, what is all that? So if we look at the travel and wellness travel, so in terms of Instagram, for example, some of the most used hashtags in travel have, give or take, about 50 million. Are you using them? Do you engage in those conversations? If we look at the wellness, well-being, and feel-good type of hashtags, have a lot less posts. So therefore, we may want to consider combining the two to have greater impact while we're discussing with our audiences. So what? Beautiful numbers, impressive numbers. So what? At this point, I want to say 3 things. There are 3 things I want you to remember, and my advice as to how you can optimize your business and your marketing to better speak with your audience. Now, there is only one thing that is certain, and that is that we cannot keep doing that. That is out of the question. We cannot afford to hide our heads in the sands anymore. So the first thing I want you to remember is the mobile-first user experience. Some of us may be almost there, but there is a lot to learn. The idea is that our communication with our audiences should be almost device or platform agnostic. It should be seamless. The experience and the communication should not be bound by different platforms, mobiles, and what have you. It's kind of what Microsoft tried to do with Xbox, but didn't. But this is the ideal scenario. Now, at this point, I need to say the following. Wellness travelers are travelers. Wellness tourists are tourists. So we, as travelers and tourists, love our mobiles and love our devices. There is this argument where people say, oh, technology is bad for you. So it makes your eyes hurt or your neck hurt, and they are the bad guys, the technology. Come to us, and we'll do you wellness, and we'll heal you, and that's good. While there is an argument for this connection, and there is value to that argument, at the same time, we need to embrace technology, not vilify it, and use the smartness and the agility that the data can provide in order to better talk and negotiate with our customers. So instead of vilifying technology, let's use it and harness it to make these experiences better. And talking about experiences, I'm coming to the second thing that I want to focus on. And this is immersion and immersive connectivity. There are a lot of augmented reality and virtual reality technologies that can help you do that. And what is important, especially for the spa and wellness people, it is a very corporeal experience. So we are talking about embodiment and how we can use the senses to make these experiences memorable. So it could be looking at sites. You are in a hotel, and I want to have one of the walls in the hotel changing in a relaxing mode and looking at Barbados Beach, or I want to change it because I have a romantic experience and I want to see the New York skyline. It may be with smell. I want to relax, I had a beautiful bath, and I want the place to smell of lavender. Or I'm in a festive mood and I want the place to smell like nutmeg and cinnamon or what have you. Having said that, one of the things I absolutely loved in Hotel Icon in Hong Kong, and they're not paying me for this, by the way, is that Hong Kong is a very busy, overcrowded place, the hustle and bustle all around. And when you open the doors in the hotel, you have this signature smell and you know you're home. It is absolutely fantastic because you know you are there and it's like an oasis. So maybe we need to engage in this kind of engaging the senses to make things more memorable and more welcoming. And the final thing, and probably most important, is that we need to talk to our customers and understand what their individual needs are. We cannot make assumptions. Traditional segmentation used to put you in little pigeonholes and boxes and said, you are male, you are 45, therefore this is what you need. We cannot do that anymore because the same person has different needs, solo travel, different when traveling with partners, different when traveling with kids, different on a business trip, that very same individual. So we need to recognize and understand the context of that person, and the best person to tell us what they want is the clients that we have. So engage with them and listen to those conversations. The worst thing you can do is when someone's putting a review and you have, dear guest, so-and-so, thank you for your message, our policy is. No. Authenticity needs to go through your products, to your communication, and the way you interact with those customers. Particularly now that we are looking at customers that are highly connected, they are looking at the service of now, they need instant gratification. Unless we respond to these key requirements, we will not be able to capture that market that is big and profitable. So I think I've just made it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elena. That was fantastic. I'm sure there's going to be quite a few questions for you. So let me invite Jean-Claude. And yes, come on up. Yes, I'll have you sit here. Okay. And we've got a bunch of questions. And yeah, Armando too. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm glad you brought up technology. That's a big subject. And speaking of technology, we have questions here, thanks to the technology. And they explained to me that what happens is that the question that is the most popular is at the top, which is something new. And so here's the question, and I'll ask any one of you, where do these millennials get all of this money from?
They spend money differently.
They spend money differently? Explain that.
Well, you said it a little bit before. They don't buy things. I remember when I started, I had to buy an apartment.
Yeah.
Big credit.
Yeah.
Struggling to pay every month. No, they spend it.
I think that's true, and they don't even necessarily need a car.
No, but
because they'll share a car.
Susie, that means that they add a bigger value to immaterial things than, and that's experience. Yeah. That is what we were talking about. And that's why I keep saying we are at the beginning of a new marketing of travel and tourism.
Elena, what is your experience in terms of
Well, I see that I interact with a lot of young people because it's part of my job at the university. And I have to say I'm jealous of them because they've traveled a lot more than I have, and I'm double their age. So they do value the experiences, and they don't care about having a car because they can Uber. They don't care about buying holidays because they can surf couch or they can just Airbnb. So it's not about owning things because the status comes from what we call now cultural capital rather than possessions.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I'm aware that a lot of them are still living at home, some of them. So they don't have any rent. Armando, anything in Italy that...
Sorry?
The millennials, do they seem to have money in Italy?
Yes, the millennium is the particular request, is a choice from your experience and not for the only market advisor. The millennials is a very important client for the wellness because it's to living for your period or for younger and very good.
So it sounds like it's similar in Italy, and maybe we can have this microphone a little bit higher so we can all hear it. But thank you for that. So let's see what else we have here. Oh, someone is going to go around with a microphone so that if you have a question, maybe you can just raise your hand. Oh, there you are with the microphone, right? Okay, great. So just raise your hand and she will come over and get your question. So let's see here. Okay, something about Selena Gomez. So that would be a question for you. What do you think about micro-influencers, 3,000 to 1 million followers? Some people say they get better engagement than the super accounts like Selena Gomez. What do you think?
I agree. Because, okay, how do I put this politely? Being a follower of Selena Gomez may say something about you. Or not. Or not.
Yeah.
But it's more important to have the relevant people, and as you showed on your slides, have the people that talk to your audience rather than the super accounts. So it's not about the huge number of followers. Well, of course, it has an impact, but it's about the relevance to your products and your services. So it's better to have smaller accounts with higher impact rather than super accounts with...
So the person who asked that question is thinking similarly. Is there a question in the audience? Yes, right here. Somebody has a question. Do you want to just stand up and tell us who you are and what your question is?
Hi, my name is Moti. Two questions. The first is most of the presentations focused on the experience of the place, but there's also the whole component of design and architecture of the actual facility, and there's a new global building and design standard based on the principles of wellness.
Yes.
So don't you think as part of the overall experience, it doesn't just focus on the products, but also from the beginning part of the design and architecture in terms of the materials that are being used, the technologies, etc., etc. The second is a question to the Italian guy. Carlo Pietrini was the person who founded the concept of slow food in Italy. As a result of that, it led to the growth of the slow movement globally. One part of the slow movement, what came out of that, also pioneered in Italy, is something called slow cities. And would the whole concept of slow cities connect with the theme of your definition and focus of wellness?
Those are great questions. Let's start with the one about slow food in Italy.
Yes. It's possible to hot massage in everywhere in the world. But the difference is when you located in a special place. It's different. From the second question is a non-understanding because it's the rumors. It's possible to repeat because it's a non-understanding.
You had a question about the first question? Yeah. I wasn't quite... I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question. About...
Yeah, the second question from Italy, I don't understand it because it's the rumor.
Oh, I see, the noise. Okay. Yes, I do understand because there is some noise out there. Well, as the gentleman said, slow food is Italy is famous for having launched or introduced the idea of slow food.
Yes.
And so that is part of wellness. I think it wasn't necessarily when it was introduced, but it has become, I mean, slow everything is somehow related to wellness, people needing to slow down. The other question is about architecture and wellness and health architecture. And I think that's absolutely right on. And do either one of you want to mention about that?
Yes, the infrastructure is absolutely important because when we talk about experiences, it's not just about the service, it's about what we call the whole service-scape. That includes the architecture and the materials used, so the physical space, and then it's about the service and the design of the product, be it a treatment or anything else, and on a third level, on the interaction between the host and the guest. So yes, the infrastructure and how it's designed is absolutely paramount in having a successful service-scape.
And we now have a whole segment called Wellness Architecture. As you mentioned, many of you are familiar with LEED certification, if you're environmentally aligned with the principles, but there's also WELL certification now, where are you aligned with the well-being for people who are going to be using this space. So wellness architecture is becoming something more and more important, and you're absolutely right. We haven't been talking about it, but we should, and it's definitely part of what's going to attract people, including, I think, the millennials, who are very, very green-oriented, and they are very authentically oriented. So going to a place that has a structure that is appropriate and made locally, and also has a design that's inspiring is going to be more important. Jean-Claude?
Yeah, no, I cannot more agree as well. I just would add something, a plea to the architects who make hotel rooms. There are a lot of hotel rooms you need a seminar how to use the light, all the switches and so on. And the key thing here is that when you go into a hotel room, that you feel it has to be built for you, that you feel comfortable immediately. And the gentleman is right. When you go to a place, either it's a very cultural place like a Japanese temple, like a ryokan, like a traditional Thai home, or it is something which has been done by a millennium or a millennium thinking type of architect, and create something where you feel good in, where you feel comfortable, where you want to stay.
And I think that what we're learning about millennials is that the social spaces in hotels are becoming more important to them because they're not so interested in staying in their rooms, which, as I agree with you, if the technology is complicated, it's very stressful to be in that room. So the social spaces with the millennials and the architecture is, and there's also a lot of research now that shows how physiologically you are affected by the architecture and the health of the building. So I think we will see more of that. Let's see, a couple other questions, and if you have anything, raise your hand. Here is the question: what role do you think retreats play in driving wellness travel, particularly off-season? What kinds of things are people looking for in wellness retreats?
Yes.
Yes, well, I'll
That's
just maybe mention yesterday in our session, retreats was a big topic because we are hearing from the consumer, and especially the millennials, that is what they're looking for. They like curated experiences, and it isn't so much, in fact, I brought this up, and now's a perfect time for me to share it with you. One of the things that kind of a red flag was thrown at our summit in Palm Beach about the concern that destination spas should probably be having about millennials, because millennials are not necessarily wanting to go to a destination spa like their parents did, because they are not looking for that experience. And here's a couple of quotes from some PR people. Victoria King: "Wellness is already a part of everyday life for millennials. Years ago, guests would trust a property to offer the best possible spa experiences. Now, with wellness experts so accessible via social media, guests expect hotels to bring in outside leaders, such as international motivational speakers, to complement their programming." And that's where the retreats come in. And that's really a way for the destination spas and the hotel spas to solve this problem, is they can create retreats at their property. Certain times of the year, certain people come. And the other advantage is if you bring in an outside expert, that expert will bring some of their tribe. So that's another way to bring more people in. But we are seeing increasing interest in retreats. So, anything, Elena?
We are currently doing some research. It's not in the press yet because we're still collecting data, so I don't have the full picture yet. But our initial findings show that these experiences, the destination spas and the retreats are needed, but are needed for particular reasons. So millennials will go to destination spas or retreats depending on the reasons. And these tend to be either for disconnection from technology, if you're living in an urban environment, or it may be to find meaning. Because when we are living and running around trying to do things and accomplish things, at some point you take a point and you say, I've done all that, so what? And it's usually some experiences that have to do with critical moments in our lives. And when that reflection needs to take place, this is where retreats are coming in very handy. But this is still initial findings. We don't have the full picture yet.
I think we'll have more research in that arena coming up because, the millennials are becoming more and more important. Jean-Claude, did you want to mention anything?
Well, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the question, not because it's not valid, but in terms of a destination management, how repetitive, how often, how many people can we get to the retreat to fill the rooms, to fill the station and so on. It seems to me that you have to have a big variety of themes in those retreats. I don't have any experience of a retreat who goes back to back during winter. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that question, actually.
Well, that's fair, and I think that's part of the challenge. On the other hand, I think about certain places can maybe specialize, like in fertility retreats, that they would have them, and they become very good at that. But I do agree that, those are, they're customized, which is what millennials want, but they're also complicated.
The only place who comes in my mind is Kerala.
Kerala, yes, with Ayurveda.
Ayurveda.
Yeah.
But they don't have a seasonal problem because people come all year round.
Well, Kerala is such a great example because they solved their seasonal problem by instituting Ayurveda. And because I did a study on it, their average stay was like 2 days until they became Kerala, the cradle of Ayurveda. And then the stay became 3 weeks because that's how long you need to do an Ayurvedic treatment. And so now, and then they went one further, which is that they marketed, which I have learned is actually the case, your best results are during the monsoon season. So now...
Exactly, that's a good point. Yeah.
So now they're attracting people in the monsoon season to stay a long time.
And they increase the price in monsoon because it's much more efficient, according to them.
That I didn't know. But that's interesting. So higher prices in monsoon. Smart. So we're out of time. So I'm just going to ask you one last question, and you can answer it just with maybe one word or one sentence. And the question is, what do you see as the future? How would you describe the future of wellness travel, wellness, tourism, in maybe one word. What word would you use?
Technology enabled.
Technology enabled. Very good. Very good.
Can I make 2 words?
2 words. You can, yes, you can.
Full of diversity.
Full of diversity. Fantastic. Armando, 2 words for wellness travel in the future?
It's the well-being.
Well-being.
One.
So you're going to go with the well-being word. I think that's kind of a consensus here. And I would just add that maybe my word would be optimistic. I think that we all have that, and I'm just so excited about it because there's so much opportunity, and possibly because of the technology and the stress levels, and yes, it will help us as well, but I think we have only begun, and there's a bright future. So thank you very much. I'd like you to thank our panelists, and if you have any questions, come on up and ask them after. So thank you both, or all 3 of you. Thank you, thank you.